We are not live, we are recording. And this is episode 53 of Flirting with the Realities. And we're back after a 3-month hiatus. Woo! So, listen, I know we've got 26 subscribers and you've all been wondering where we're at. Well, we're back now, so you don't have to worry. And no more emails, please. Lots of emails from all you guys.
No.
Lots of questions. Everything's been
where
fine.
We were.
Where have you been? It looks like for 3 months. Where have you been?
Well, it started with my dad broke his back. So I was taking care of him every day.
Holy shit, kombucha.
We are not having champagne. And so in that time, I also interviewed for a job while I was taking care of him, and then proceeded to get the job and took care of him up until I started that job. So it kind of was just like, I've been at that job a few months. So I sat with dad about 5 weeks with his broken back, and then I immediately started a job. And
Well, but we were busy before that, right? Like we were like doing like DoorDash kind of. I think isn't DoorDashing like what kind of started all like you got because remember we were busy.
we were busy, and like, you were sick like a few weeks. You were sick. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, you were really sick.
Really sick, like gonna die sick.
No, like with some sort of nasty cold sick.
Oh.
So yeah, door dashing, illnesses, people breaking their backs.
I just remember like it was weird because we hadn't been like super busy in a while. Like we lived like a pretty balanced life.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like it was like we started doing DoorDash or something, and it like consumed us or something. We didn't have like a spare moment. It didn't seem like it seemed like we were always just going and always just doing something, and it kind of took us over. It seems like, and then one thing led to another, and then I guess that's how that goes.
Yeah, I think that is how that goes. Life happens to people.
Well, and it's interesting because I guess I'm like starting to understand more and more about how we as humans operate and how I guess to me it just seems like we're not in any sort of control of our lives. And I think that's just an example of how we were just like, oh, well, we'll just DoorDash. And oh, your dad broke his back. And like, oh, well, I guess we're not podcasting. And I guess, oh, like I got sick. And I guess, oh, and it's like, we've been through 3 months of stuff that I feel like there's been a lot that's happened. But it's like my diet's been up and down. My exercise has been up and down. And I just barely figured out why, like yesterday. Like, it's funny because I'm looking back now and I'm like, oh, all that stuff, like my exercise, my diet, feeling certain ways about things, was what I figured out yesterday. All these emotions and thoughts that I've had for months have been controlled by something outside my control.
It's funny because I can relate to that
I know you can.
with my menopause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I was thinking about that too because I was thinking about like so that's what I'm saying is I'm kind of feel like I'm getting a better grasp on how we are just not in any sort of control.
I don't think that's completely true. I think it's largely true. But for me, I feel like there's a mindset that you can choose to have through the whole thing why you're not controlling things, and that's what you have control of. Because you're right, there's this ebb and flow in life, that and clearly with your body, but I think you do have some control, and it's your mindset about it.
But where does your mindset come from?
I think that could be a practice, like, or it could be an automatic thing. It just depends on the person. You would have asked me that in my 20s. I mean, I wouldn't have answered appropriately, but I believe that in my 20s, it was just an auto response. That's where my mindset was. Like, I would have been like, fuck my life. Why is this all happening to me? Why is my dad breaking his back? Nothing's going right for me. Oh, woe is me, poor me. And I didn't I didn't do that. I'm not saying it wasn't overwhelming when my dad broke his back, and it was very scary at first. Like the first few days, I don't know if you remember, I like kind of panicked and I was like, oh, this is going to be the rest
Yeah.
of my life. But then I saw what I was doing and I was like, breathe, take it day by day.
Well, but this is my argument: is you didn't just you didn't go from like the same person you were in your 20s, like I would have freaked out because my dad broke his back, to what are you doing? Like, let's chill out.
No, it took,
Carol in her 50s,
yeah, it's taken a lot of practice and work and
a
inner
ton.
reflection and meditation and working out and eating right and maintaining a balance and understanding that I have tools to handle life when these crazy things are happening.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and that's why I feel like I don't know. I guess as much as you can control your dad breaking his back and you dealing with it how you're dealing with it is as much as you could control learning about how to deal with it 5 years prior to dealing with it. I don't think you're in control now, and I don't think you were in control then. I don't think you were in control in your 20s. I don't think you've ever been in control. I think your life is leading you in a path which, luckily, that path was, hey man, have a good mindset if something bad happens when you're in your 50s.
Yeah, I know you have that determinism.
Well, I'm just saying, but that's what I'm saying about like, that's what I'm saying is like, it's just becoming more and more clear to me when we're like door dashing and your dad broke his back and now we're busy. Now you got a job and now we're doing this. It was all so controlling that we were just having to like move with it. Like it felt like there was no choice. But that's the funny thing is like, I feel like now that we're not in that, I think for me, I really take a step back and I go, oh, well, that's funny because I feel like I've got more control now, but no, I don't. It's just all this completely out of control thing that I guess just to me is becoming more and more clear. And that okay, so this is what I'm saying though is like when you add menopause in, man, I don't know how many people could hear this and even understand what I'm saying or what you're saying, but when you're going through menopause and all of a sudden you don't have estrogen or whatever, you don't have testosterone, you have progesterone or whatever you're dealing with, it just you have no control over your I would dare say your thoughts. I mean, you do, but it goes away a little bit at least.
Yeah, I mean, you're not at your peak level for sure. So there's a lower inability to handle what you normally could tolerate. However, you've still built up these tools over the years that you can put in play. And I'm not saying it's easy, but yes, there's definitely thoughts that are happening that aren't happening when you're at your peak hormone level. I felt a shell of a person. Like, I didn't even feel like a human anymore.
Well, when you're in that moment, don't you feel very I want to say introverted. It's not introverted. It's inter like you're not connecting with the outside world.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not connecting with anything.
Yeah, you're just like in your head,
Mm,
barely surviving. Like,
I wouldn't say I was in my head. I'm not, I don't think I was just in my head.
Well, I mean, because that's where, so, I mean, just to get through. So I've had low iron. Anyway, long story short, I've had low iron, and I started supplementing 3 days ago, and like literally it was like a light switch went off in my head, and I went from like zombie to like, oh hey everybody, like I've been
Yeah,
gone for a
you
while.
weren't doing well.
No, I wasn't doing good at all, and it's like that to me felt like very like, it's hard to explain, but I was just not here. Like I was just not. I couldn't connect with the outer world. I couldn't even connect with my inner world. Like it's just like,
See, yeah, you just said it. You said I was in my head and I wasn't even there. This is what I'm saying. I think that that explains it well. I felt like a shell of a person. I wasn't inside and I wasn't outside.
what about a for a definition's sake? What about saying it's just like you're just a program? You're just a program that's running. Did you feel that way? Because that's the way I felt. But I felt like it's weird because I even like in the moment would wonder like, what do I look like to people right now? Because I felt like just like, oh, like this guy is not even. You can't even have a conversation with this guy.
I didn't worry about that at all. Um,
But I couldn't put physical effort in. I couldn't put mental effort in. I was just like, what was funny is we go up to your dad's and we play cards, and your dad's an older guy, so he acts like an older guy. But what was hilarious, and I told you about this, is while we're playing cards, I felt on his level. I felt when I was playing cards like I'm dealing like
slow
so
motion.
slow, and like I can't think about my hand. I was just like, I am on this man's level and I understand why he's acting the way he does. And like, I don't know why I'm here with him and I'm half his age. But that's how I felt.
Yeah.
I mean, is that how you feel or no? You just feel
No.
disconnected?
Yeah, there was a difference. I didn't feel slow motion.
Well, the slow motion was because I couldn't think.
I've definitely had trouble thinking and remembering and recalling things, and at times it was making me feel very crazy. Like when you are like telling me something we did yesterday, and I'm like, nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's a weird, bizarre feeling. I mean, maybe yes, but I mean, I didn't feel like slow motion. But I definitely there was a huge disconnect, and I didn't feel human or like I like even could recognize who I was. And yeah, it was bizarre.
You didn't feel any like your physical actions were
Slow?
improvised because of your mental capabilities?
Oh,
I mean, that's why I'm dealing cards so slow, is because like
I guess I was
I can't
thinking it in
process.
the just dealing cards, which I wasn't having trouble with. But yes, definitely with other physical activities, working out.
Oh, you were slow working out?
Yeah, I would say so.
Do you think you were like low motivation working out?
No,
No,
I think it just
it seemed like a lot of effort, more effort,
way more
way
effort.
more.
But I mean, it's hard too because I was injured. But I mean, but I think I was injured because of
Yeah, that's the best part.
menopause.
That's the best part. So it's but the interesting thing is to be in that position, to be low estrogen, or I was low iron, or maybe you could say low thyroid, or I mean, I don't think we even talked about like my homocysteine issues that like I was dealing with, but it's just interesting. It's so interesting, right? Because this is all we talk about is like, why people aren't eating good, why people aren't exercising. And like the bad news is if you're listening to this, and if say you drink a lot, say you don't exercise very often, say you don't eat well, or let's say, but that's where I was. Is I was eating good, I'm exercising.
Me too.
Yeah, we're eating good and we're exercising and we're doing everything we can, and then there's just something off.
Yeah.
There's just, but it's just like for me, it's iron, and I eat meat. I eat like a lot of
You
meat, so
do
my
every day.
my iron should be. I don't want to go into why my iron wasn't high enough, but how many people are not even doing the basics? No, I don't want
Yeah.
to say basics, like how many people aren't doing as much as they possibly could, which is a lot to ask. How many people aren't doing that, and they're where we were feeling, which is like that is weird to think that so many people are walking around feeling how I was feeling 3 days ago. It is
Yeah.
insane to think about that.
It's true. I've kind of given that a lot more thought too. And you said you felt like you were in a program, and I think I did feel very robotic. I think that's a program could be a description.
What about a description of going through the motions? Because I don't know if robotic does going through the like wake up and then like you're not. Maybe I'm drunk. That would be like a good way to explain how I felt. Like I'm so drunk that my conscious mind is not running the show anymore. It is a little bit making some decisions, but for the most part, my body is going through motions that it is memorized and that it's like trying to just do on its own.
Yeah.
Way more subconscious running than conscious. Surviving.
Surviving is a good
But yeah, so you think about that, and so if you're not eating good, maybe I'm making some assumptions, but I think if you're not eating good, there's got to be a hint. Sorry, a hint of you just going through the motions. If you're not exercising, there's got to be a hint of you going through the motions. If your blood work is not coming out good, very possible. And so if you add all those together, like, where are you? Where are you? And this is what I've been saying about my homocysteine that I've taken care of is I have been a person, a certain person with certain feelings, certain physical body traits that I've just thought were normal. And then all of a sudden I took care of this homocysteine thing, and like I'm like, I didn't know life was even like this. I really had no idea life was like this. And now that I'm getting everything ironed out in my body, and like it's like, oh, like this is a whole different place. I don't know that I could feel better than I've felt.
It's interesting. I remember when we met and you were like, do you ever feel like you have brain fog? You would like ask me that, and I was like, no, I never had
I don't think it was brain fog. Pressure on the brain,
pressure on the brain.
which is not, it's not even close. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, well, you asked me that.
Yeah.
You also asked me. You'd asked me a lot of questions, and I was like, no. I mean, I didn't even feel like I'd been aging yet when we met. Like I was like, raw. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's crazy for me to think that you've gone through that so many years.
My
'Cause,
whole life, I didn't know anything better.
yeah, I mean, I feel super fortunate because I've had like hardly any health problems until menopause, really.
Well, but it's how many people, I mean, out of 10, how many people do you think you could poll and say, how do you feel? Do you feel tired during the day? I feel like 9 out of 10 people are going to say, I feel tired.
No, I think it's a big issue. Yeah.
But I think if you're feeling tired, listen, if you're 80, okay. Well, and even 80 is like, maybe there's something you can do about this. I mean, I don't know. But if you're like a 30, 40-year-old person, this is what I've gone through my whole life. And when I started going to the doctor, I went to the doctor because I had extreme fatigue, and then they misdiagnosed me with a bad thyroid. I've been on a terror since then, like trying to, and so I got on this thyroid medication, and it never fixed the problems. It like kind of covered them up in weird ways, and like, but there was still the root of the problem, and that's probably what I asked you when we first started dating was, do you have a pressure on your brain? Do you feel a pressure? And I used to have this pressure on my brain, and it used to make me tired because it was so overwhelming. And it wasn't like a headache; it was just like a weird pressure. So anyway, I figured out it was this homocysteine because I couldn't eliminate inflammation in my body, and there was inflammation in my brain. But it's just, I don't know, it's just weird for me to think that there's so many people going through non-optimal living.
Well, especially with our pharmaceuticals that we're not we, but that the world is taking. It's masking all of these things that you're uncovering about yourself, and you're like getting to the root of an issue. I think we were talking about your home. I feel like we've talked about Gary Brecka on the podcast several times.
Maybe. I mean, we've been going through it for
Yeah,
years.
yeah. So really optimizing your health and getting to the root of like, why is my vitamin B low? Why do I have low iron? Why do I have low estrogen? Well, whatever it may be. But I forget where I was going with that.
Brain fog.
Brain fog or brain fart. Anyway, I
I
lost
was
my
just
train
talking
of
about
thought.
how people are not living an optimum life.
Oh yeah, I mean, because how can you when big pharma is giving you thyroid medication? I was given thyroid medication and I started to take it again, what, a year ago? And then I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. Well, and then the trip is, the trip is, it's almost like we have to be crazy people because what we're going through right now, like this health thing that we're doing, and like this figuring out, there's, if you went to go see a doctor, you can't talk to him, her,
Yeah,
about this. You
it's
you
true.
can't talk. They think you're insane. They think you're literally insane, and they don't believe you. Like I don't think my endocrinologist is gonna believe me. And it's like, so what do you do if you're an average person that? Here's the thing: is like there's people that are interested in things. So if you're interested in say video games, you probably watch a lot of video game stuff on like YouTube, or you research, or maybe you just play the video game, or maybe you're into knitting and so you watch a lot of knitting and stuff. You and I watch a decent amount of health stuff, and we focus a lot on health stuff. It's a hobby. It's a passion of ours, and it has been. I've started this hobby, this passion, probably about 11, 12 years ago, and I'm finally just getting. And this is what I've told you before: is I'm very grateful for you because without us working as a team and having somebody as equal minded as me, like wanting to pursue this, if you were just a person that liked knitting, I wouldn't have figured this out. You're the one that found the Gary Brecka thing. And so I don't think I could have ever figured this out on my own. It takes like two brains to work together to figure this out. It's like impossible to fucking figure out. So it's like, how do you, if somebody's watching this and they're like, I feel like shit, like, well, I don't, where do they start? Well, I guess you could tell them where to start. Are they going to listen? I don't know. You start with diet and exercise, Um, I don't
I
know.
think that's huge.
Well, it's insanely huge. I feel like we've talked about this on the podcast. Diet and exercise takes you from this like I'm running a program, I'm in the motions person, to like, hey, like I've never like kind of looked around before. Like, what's kind of going on around here? Like, when did everybody get here? At least that's the way it was for me. Is like, how long have I been here? Like, what's going on?
It was extremely empowering to me and yeah, energizing. It was an awakening of sorts. It changed me as a person. I got more confidence, like I was a completely different person.
Yeah. It's just amazing. Like, how come everybody doesn't want that?
Well, and like we talk about, that was just the beginning, right? I mean,
No, yeah, that's the beginning.
I started, I think, like 2002 or 3. So 20-ish 22 years ago, maybe. And it has just leveled up. Like, I never thought I would be cold bathing and doing sauna and having hydroponics and farm fresh chicken eggs. And I mean, there's just even more. B12, like all of it. It's fucking crazy.
Well, that's the thing though. Is I think I don't know, man. The problem is when you're running a program. When you're running a program, at least for me, and that's what you're saying, is like you don't go, oh hey, like I'm looking around, like what's happening. So you're in this program, and that's the problem. Is how can somebody reach you when you're in the program? How does somebody get inside and go, yo, and they like shake you and they're like, you need to exercise. Like,
That's the whole thing. Nobody can.
yeah. So it's weird because how do you reach these people?
They, well, it's like what you talk about with determinism, right? They're determined to get there, so those are the people you're gonna reach.
Yeah, but then it's I think that's kind of where we're at right now is so if you say you start a diet and exercise and then you start looking around, you're like, what's going on around here? And then you meet a couple people like us and they're like, hey, have you heard of homocysteine? Like, no doctors will ever talk to you about it. Like, it like sounds like total loony bullshit. And then you got to be like, yeah, these people are crazy, because it's so out of the ordinary. It's so like people are so into doctors, and so if they hear
I
something like that, it's just like,
I think that is changing, and it used to be like, I don't know, maybe 3%, maybe even less, were into more natural remedies, but I think it is shifting a little bit higher. But it's still, the masses are, there is a shift happening. It's just a very low shift. But
yeah. Well, but so what's funny is like you and I have taken vitamins and supplements and stuff, and we talked about this recently, but we not that long ago, a couple months ago, we quit everything because we're like, I don't, I don't know if this is doing anything. Like you can buy like a multivitamin, you're like, I don't really know if I feel better or not. I don't, or you buy like this. Like we have spent a lot of money on supplements,
yeah,
PPC, like some higher end supplements.
that's why. I mean, I really wanted to quit too, to get just like a baseline, just like
Yeah,
to have a reboot, so to speak, of just where am I at naturally without anything.
yeah. But I think that's the weird part for me is to a couple months ago just be like, I'm not doing any supplements, and then like I landed on like, well, at least one and now two that are like, holy shit.
He has
Like,
like 25 supplements.
yeah, I don't even know what's doing what, but I got my blood work done my endocrinologist is a great guy for giving us the blood work we want. Because if you don't have a doctor that'll give you the blood work that you want, that's
Yeah.
now I look at that now and I'm like, I
It's a
would
blessing.
I would quit going to the doctor if he didn't give me the tests I want. Or better yet, I would just pay for my own blood tests because
Yeah.
it's that important now. Like you and I were talking about last night, like maybe doing like a full panel every 6 months because that's that's what I found is I did blood work, the correct blood work after some research, and I found out what I was low in or what I was out of range on, and then I addressed those things. And so now, like the way I used to look at a multivitamin before is like, I'm going to take this multivitamin and then I'm going to feel so good. And then you take that multivitamin forever and you're like, I don't know if it's working.
Well, another thing too, now we know like some of those multivitamins don't have like methylated
Yeah, they're,
vitamins in them, and they're
you
like
know,
not really good for some people or good for you at all. So you have to be really careful of the supplements you're taking. And so we didn't know that.
yeah, no, like, so that's what Gary Breckett says is if you take a, a multivitamin and it's got folic acid in it, then it makes your homocysteine worse.
Yeah.
So you're making things worse by taking the wrong supplements. But that's what I was going to say is I found the problems in my blood work and then I addressed them with the vitamins that you need, and they far exceeded 10 times what I wanted that multivitamin to do.
Yeah.
They were everything I could have ever hoped for. And the problem was is my blood work also had this low iron thing. My doctor told me I didn't need to worry about it. And I've been low iron anemic, I guess you would call it, for like almost a year. And so I started taking this a couple days ago and I'm like, woo, like life is so
Yeah.
good and I can think so clear. And I'm in a good mood. Like it's really made me like wonder about people with depression
Oh, for
because
sure.
I have been feeling down for
Yeah.
a long time now.
Yeah.
Like just kind of like I don't know about my stuff. I don't know about this. I don't know about that. And now it's like yesterday or whatever when I figured this out, I'm like everything feels so good. And it's not okay. So here's another one, right? Like the homocysteine, it addresses anxiety levels, and I've just thought my whole life I'm an anxious person, and so this homocysteine has taken away all my anxiety. And it's like, but if you think you're an anxious person, you might not be. If you think you're a depressed person, you might not. I was feeling depressed because I had low iron. That has nothing to do with my personality.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the way I look at things.
Yeah.
It's just you have an imbalance in your blood or whatever in your body, and you just need to take care of it. But going back, this is, no doctors want to talk about this very simple idea. But this is what I've tried to talk to people about: is like how many issues, health issues, mental health issues, could be fixed with vitamin D, iron, B12, and these are things that you can buy on Amazon, and you might be able to have them in the morning for
Yeah.
$30,
Yeah.
but nobody wants to talk about it. And this isn't like natural herbal shit. This is vitamins that you get from food. Like you need this stuff,
Yeah.
or the sunshine. This is obvious things that you need. But it's anyway. If anybody's out there and they're like feeling like their life is like maybe you are depressed or um I mean, what other issues like you don't feel good or you're tired all the time.
You
Hey,
could
man,
think you are OCD or have
yeah,
ADHD.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we label ourselves with today, and if you really want to dig into it, like you can dig into it and you can figure it out. Like we have that. I guess that's the thing. Like we're talking about is like you and I had a hard time figuring it out together. I'm working on this for 12 years, so it's not easy, but I know you're the same way as I am. Like I'd talk to people all day about this shit. Like I try to talk to people. I'm like, hey man, like check this out. Like I found this here, and they're like, oh yeah, interesting. And it's like,
Well,
well,
this is the thing we talk about. Some people are identified with their problem and don't realize that they
Yeah.
enjoy having it. Enjoy is a strong word, but they're addicted to having it. It's part of their personality and it's part of the programming. So getting through that, but it can seem a little intimidating, but I think it's really like you hit the nail on the head with like Gary Brecka is someone that can tell you all about the homocysteine and he explains it very easily, the MTHFR gene, and he tells you what kind of vitamins to get that are methylated that you will methylate, right?
Yeah.
So there are easy things out there to you could do on your own is getting those appropriate vitamins and I mean start from there, but it's like we said, I mean, I honestly when I changed my diet and quit eating chips and soda and bread and I mostly drank water and ate meat and vegetables, and I'm not saying like I wouldn't have pizza once every 2 weeks. When I first started, I didn't allow myself any cheat meals for a year. I've told you I would only the only place I could go is Qdoba and I could have a naked taco salad and that was it. And I did that to make it a lifestyle and not just some sort of diet that I was on.
Well, why did you do that? Did you do it for health or for weight or
I
for?
did it to be like I'm doing this and I'm not saying yes to pizza. I'm not saying yes to Christmas dinner.
You wanted to be healthy.
Yeah. I was like I was getting kidney stones and it's one of the
Oh,
most painful fucking things I've ever been through in my life. And it's a at the time was a $10,000 visit to the ER.
oh, really?
And
And you were getting them all the time?
I was getting them once a year and I was like determined to change my life, and it epically changed my life. You also know me, and I'm not a huge like I easily can turn food down anyway,
Oh.
but this was another level of just cementing this in as a lifestyle. And I made those rules like after that year, I don't double up. Like when I have a cheat meal, I don't double up.
Meaning you don't have another one the same day or next day.
Yeah, so if I have leftovers, I'm not eating them. And
The next day,
yes,
maybe the day
the
after.
next day. No, not the day after. I am not doubling up that week. Like the next cheat meal isn't going to be until the next week from that day. I just, that was a rule, no doubling up. And it was so you don't, for me, and I think everybody is different, but for me, if I double up, I it like hits me. Like I don't it affects me psychologically. It affects me and I start craving sugar, which I don't even really like sweets that much.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I made all these rules, but my whole point was if you start with diet and just moving, even if it's just a walk every day, that's huge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe diet is too much to start with.
Quit quit
Maybe like
soda.
you're, well, yeah. I mean, maybe that's choose the easiest thing you can do. Soda? Could you quit soda? Or maybe like you're saying, like walk for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and then the next day make it 6 minutes.
You
7.
know, and like you said, if diet's hard, add water. Like, that's a huge thing. If you're dehydrated, you don't realize the messages that's sending to your mind.
Yeah, and I guess that's the part that's the most interesting to me is how unaware humans are of their own existence. And it's just a real trip to think about becoming aware and how to become aware, and why everybody in the world wouldn't be like, you can do what? Like, you can, it's almost like a video game or something. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not real that you can
Well,
do these things, these little tricks, and become like a much more conscious person. Like, which conscious, what does that mean? Like, you're smarter, you're more aware,
you're,
happier.
you know, I'll just put this out there. I think we've talked about me working with Aaron and his shift experience, I'm pretty sure. But even that kind of work, I mean, there's still programming and there's a lot to get rid of. And I'll just be super vulnerable that over the last, I don't know, 3 weeks, maybe four, I don't know, I unveiled some more programming in my head that I wasn't even aware of. And it's a trip to have it unfold. And I'll just lay this out there is basically I would I found myself internalizing things that I would just keep to myself and let it bother me and maybe even blame you or make up some story that maybe I needed to protect myself from you. I don't know exactly, but I realized like through just unfolding of life and doing Aaron's work and just stuff that's happened between us, this like was unveiled to me that I didn't even I would have told you I was a vulnerable person a few months ago. I wouldn't have probably believed you if you told me I was internalizing things. So, I mean, it's
Yeah,
not always easy to you're ready when you're ready.
yeah, that's a lot to think about how, you're doing all the right things, or trying to do all the right things, or everything that you're aware of, and then there's these things that you don't even know. That's what I've always said is like, other people know you better than you know yourself. Because you can't see yourself, and that all comes down to being able to take a look at yourself. When somebody says like, hey, like, maybe you're not being vulnerable and you're not telling me things that you should, what's the common response to that? Is like, no, I'm fine, I'm good. This person's trying to trick me. There's a lot of that, right? Like, this person's trying to take advantage of me or do something, so you like protect yourself. But it's so hard to like look at yourself.
Well, it's kind of like what we're talking about. Like it's easy for me to sit here and go, I don't understand why they won't listen to me. Like this changed my life. Meditation is something that I don't push it on anyone, but I do express to people that it literally changed my fucking life. It I can't even if there's one thing that I will never quit doing, it's meditating. And it's gotten me in touch with myself. It's made me a better person, a better mom, a better wife, a better daughter. Like, it's given me the ability to unfold all these layers. Anyway, I had to snort because, sorry, people. I forgot where I was taking this again. uh, anyway,
Just lost it.
I completely lost it.
Yeah. Well, so you're just getting on your menopause supplements,
Yeah.
and you're trying to dial all that in, but you feel a lot better, right?
Oh, yeah.
Way better.
Yeah, so I've been, I guess that started about November, mid November, that I started dialing that in, right? So I'm about maybe almost 2 months into working on that. Taking hormone, for those of you who don't.
What are you thinking on that? You think you're gonna stick with what you got going? Maybe change the doses, or you think you're gonna switch it all up?
Well, I have my next appointment in February, so
And that'll determine how you feel, you think?
yeah, that'll be interesting because I feel pretty like I'm starting to feel like a human again. I was not sleeping well at all for a long time. Like I would sleep 3 hours maybe four. I was waking up between 2:30 and 4 in the morning and like living off 4 hours of sleep. And the sleep that sleep was not good. It was horrible. And the hot flashes would keep me awake at night. Yeah, it was just that's all very tolerable right now, and I'm sleeping better than I've slept in a long time.
So this is like another thing you talk about where I feel like a lot of women in menopause are probably like, I guess I'll deal with it. I mean,
I
this is just
tried
what
to.
happens.
Yeah,
But I think a lot of women do because they don't know how to deal with it.
yeah,
But again, this is where you're like, no, I need to figure this out.
yeah. It came to a point where, I mean, there's a quality of life involved, and my quality of life was not.
Well, and that's the problem too, though, is you reached a certain quality of life, and to have that taken away from you is like, no, it ain't
Yeah,
gonna happen. If you would have just been the same person as your 20s, where you're eating pizza and soda every day and you just kind of feel like crap, you don't exercise, maybe it wouldn't have been that big of a deal to take
it's
that from
true.
you.
It's true. Very possible.
But the thing is it's funny because it all breaks down to the exact same thing between you and I. We have completely different issues, but it all breaks down to blood work.
Yeah,
Get your blood work done, see what you're deficient in, see what's not in range, and then figure out what you've got to do to get that in range. Like it breaks it all down to being that simple of how to take care of a human body. But what's super funny, doctors don't do that.
I know, but they don't do that, and it's readily available. Like
Readily available.
you can just go look at a comprehensive panel and it's going to show you like the woman panel, it'll give you all the vitamins, the hormones, and cancer markers, all of it. You can just look at it all.
But it's like if I go in there and I'm like, I don't really feel good and I've got brain fog and I'm depressed, and they're like, sounds like thyroid. We'll check the thyroid.
Or antidepressant.
Yeah, or antidepressants. And they're like, yep, your thyroid didn't come in range, so we're gonna give you thyroid medication. But that's what we're talking about. I was like, well, why isn't my thyroid operating correctly? It's not my thyroid's problem. There are other problems that are causing that problem. If you did more blood work, more comprehensive blood work, you would know all this. And this is the part that gets me stirred up, is when my thyroid was diagnosed 12 years ago or whatever, I asked for full workup of my blood work, and he said, no, you're going looking for problems, and we're not doing that. It's your thyroid. Sit down and shut up. And I'm like, he's a doctor. I haven't gone to medical school. I'm going to listen to him. And it drives me crazy to know that I could have possibly figured all this out and I could have had 12 years of my life that were, I lived every day like, and it was exceptional. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
So anyway, find a doctor and get your blood work, and but I know that's super vague, but I don't. I guess I've been.
You can literally you don't even need a doctor to do blood work anymore. You
No,
can
yeah,
do
you
the
can get your
blood
own
work
done.
on your own.
Yeah, and that's totally what you should do. But and that, I don't know if I told you that's a conspiracy theory that I kind of thought up of. That I'm not I'm not like sold on it, but I tell you about that, how I think like that's why they created healthcare and like insurance, is because you go to your doctor and you're like, hey, I want my vitamin B12 levels checked, and they're like, your insurance isn't going to approve that. And then you go, oh, shucks. I guess I can't.
Well, I just believe that's what we do with the whole world is make it really complicated to charge more money for things or push some sort of
But the hilarious thing is, I think everybody needs to take a step back and say, who's in control of my health? Who controls my health? Is it the doctor? Does the doctor get to tell me I don't get to take blood tests? Does he tell me no, we're not checking other things, it's your thyroid and this is what you're taking?
I think a lot of people are dealing with these same issues.
Yeah, but is it your health insurance? Does your health insurance get to tell you, like, oh, you have cancer and we're going to approve this therapy
I
and
mean,
that therapy?
yes, if you're
Why aren't
asking.
why aren't you in control of your own health? And but that's the thing
Well,
is, like,
because we've given it away too. There's a system at play here that
there is. That's
we've
what my point.
all
That's my whole point.
been kind of a slave to.
That's we've got tricked into this healthcare thing. Obamacare started it. We got tricked
It
in.
was well before
Okay, fine, well
Obamacare.
before. But then the prices are so insane that you have to have healthcare. But here's the secret that I'm going to let everybody in on is if you go in and you're like, hey, I want my iodine checked and I want B6 checked, and they're like, your healthcare is not going to cover it. You go, okay, well, screw them. I want it anyway, out of pocket. I want to pay this out of my pocket. And the crazy thing is, you're probably looking at like a couple $100 maybe. This isn't like $20,000 to get your blood work checked. It's not like healthcare can go screw themselves for not paying this 20, maybe $50 check.
Yeah.
You know. So the thing is like, empower yourself a little bit and say, no, this is getting done. And if your doctor doesn't get it done, you can either go to another doctor or you can just go on your own. And there's labs you can just get your own labs done. Or you go to that, was it Merrick?
Yeah. Merrick Labs.
Merrick Labs? Like, just go to somebody that'll get it done. Like, you need to stop going to these people that are, it's like a dysfunctional relationship. They're trying to keep you in the same place.
Yeah.
And like, listen, like, if I break my arm tomorrow, I'm going to go to the hospital.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking about optimizing your health. We're
Yeah.
not talking about like breaking your arm or when you really need something. And you know, it's like Gary Brecka was saying when we watched that video again the other day. He's like, the chance of it being your thyroid is 20%.
Thyroid's
That,
20% responsible for
yes,
converting T4 to T3.
yes. So why would I say, okay, I'm giving you thyroid rather than looking at the culprit that could be 80% responsible?
Yeah.
And I think this is just, it's not just thyroid, that it's with other things. And it's just, we're talking about optimizing your health, not like ignoring, like if you have prostate cancer or a broken arm, or this is like looking into high homocysteine causes a lot of problems, and a simple fix if you're having trouble methylating is just by taking B12, methylated B12, and
Or methylated B9. Depends
yeah,
what your problem is.
yeah. So yeah, you have to get the test, but I think if it's $1,000,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
worth every penny.
Well, you'd pay 10,000 if it
Even
was
if
you had
you
to.
even if you just did your B vitamin.
Well, yeah, but then that's what you were talking about earlier. You got to hold on because you can't take a B complex and do
Yeah.
this. The
Yeah.
B complex will cause you problems.
Yeah.
You have to take certain types of B
Yeah.
vitamins.
Yeah. You have to do your research. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah. Anyway, you good then? Okay, so we are going to talk about improving our lives. We are also going to start working on getting different camera angles. And if you're actually like watching this on YouTube, um, yeah, we get it. It's not the best podcast, professional podcast looking thing. So we're trying to work on that. We'll try to put some more effort into it and
Yeah.
have a more,
Do better.
yeah, just
Just
improve our lives. And yeah,
we're gonna work on it.
Yeah, but I think it's episode 53 or 54.
3, I think.
53, maybe
It could be
54.
54.
So we're holding ourselves accountable. We're going to go to episode 100 at least. And we're also like talking about making the channel like much more interesting and doing a bunch of other fun things with it. So, maybe like talking about that homocysteine and how it's very simple to take care of. And I feel like I could talk to you about the homocysteine in 5 minutes and tell you how to take care of it. And it's cheap, fast, easy. So stuff like that would help people out. So anyway, I guess that'll be this week's podcast. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Guys.